Good morning, everybody. It's been kind of a hot minute since I made a video, and that's because I ran out of storage on my phone. Sorry. Anyway, I needed time to think up some more material. Excuse me. And here we are. So, today I kind of want to discuss fear campaigns and the effect that they have on us. I say us, but I really mean those that give into the fear. Let's see, a good example that I want to start out with is the, sorry, it's raining here. It's been raining for like a month here. A good example I want to start out with is the eclipse. Remember, they made everybody terrified that the whole world was going to end, or at least the United States, for this eclipse. In fact, it's been a 6-year, almost 7-year campaign since the previous eclipse. Remember Xing out America, all of that? Now, I'm not oblivious to the fact that that could all be some kind of ritual, but let's put that aside for now. The real effect it has on people is fear. And what does fear do? Fear makes people compliant, which we've discussed before. I brought up before, and compliant people are obviously easy to rule and easy to be made to do things which normally they wouldn't do, or take in ideas which normally they'd be repulsed by. But there's a deeper thing to fear campaigns, a deeper effect, and that is that when you spend any amount of extended time, any extended amount of time under stress, fear causes stress, it causes psychological stress, which translates to physical stress, which translates to emotional stress. Everything, the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, they're all connected. You are one, 3 persons, one God, technically. So to speak, I should say, not technically. And so, when that happens, you get to a steady state of equilibrium, and that fear becomes your steady state of equilibrium. Then that fear is lifted. It is like the rabbit, or I'm sorry, the chicken who has had all of its feathers plucked out by a king. And then the king puts that chicken down. And what does that chicken do? It nuzzles up against the king's leg because it's so grateful that it stopped the torture. And that's what people do. See, we are so inundated by bullshit that we as a collective do not have time and the emotional wherewithal to sit and say, okay, what's the reason behind that? What could be the cause of this? And a lot of people just don't want to know. I was discussing this kind of stuff with my coworker yesterday, and she's like, well, I said something like, oh yeah, everybody just thinks I'm crazy when I bring it up with them, and I'm okay with that. But she said something startling. She said, I don't think you're crazy. I just don't want to talk about it. People are so comfortable in their ignorance that they would rather maintain that level of ignorance than be educated on the truth. And I think that's really telling and echoes a lot of other videos I've made. Now, what happens when you've been under constant stress for months and that's released? You tend to overlook stuff. You tend to be over generous with your allowances towards your controllers. Just like that chicken. And so, in the wake of this eclipse, what has happened? Well, first of all, they annihilated your right to freedom of speech, which they actually can't do. They can only do it if you believe they have the power to annihilate your right to free speech, because your right to free speech does not begin and end with another man telling you you have it. If that were the case, then you wouldn't have the right, right? Because then it's just a privilege. So, people don't realize that they need to actually protect their rights. They get, oh, I almost set up in arms, but the problem is they don't. They get all huffy and tiffy about their rights, but they never ever do anything about it. It's just like, ho hum, I guess we just had another right stripped. Such is life, c'est la vie. That's how complacent people have gotten. And I've stopped enjoying speaking to my dad about stuff like this, because where he used to educate me and add a perspective, I realize now just how broken he is, how broken his will has been by this constant inundation of psychological terrorism. That's what it is. Your government, if you live in the United States, your government is a terrorist organization. It's pretty apparent. I mean, they thrive on fear. If not for your fear, they would have no power. But everybody is used to the fear. So, when one reaches a steady state of equilibrium, they want to maintain it. Because it doesn't matter what that equilibrium is. It's just like the prisoner who has become institutionalized. That is far from an optimal living situation, although that has become their equilibrium. And that is very similar to what you're seeing now. We are a nation of prisoners. And we live in an open-air prison. I'm not a prisoner. They can try to imprison me. Doesn't matter where they put me. I am free in my mind. I can go wherever I want. That is a great lesson I learned from a very wise man who got real railroaded in 1969 by California politics. His name was Charles. Passed away a few years ago. He lived his entire life in prison for a crime he didn't commit. I mean, no matter how you slice it, the dude didn't go out and kill a bunch of people. He was blamed for it for his influence over people, which, even that infringes on free speech. And I get it, you shouldn't be going telling people to do stuff, but did he? I don't think he did. Oh, now we're getting into the weeds, but real quick, the real Charles that was guilty was Charles Tex Watson. Look into that. It's not Charles M. Manson. Who? His name isn't even Manson, it's Maddox. Maddox. He was an MK Ultra victim that I believe broke his programming. Notice how everybody that interviews him asks him the same questions and treats him exactly the same, except for whatever, Ronnie Reagan's kid. That was a really good interview and showed the man the respect that any man deserves. So, back to what I forget I was saying now. So, oh man, it's gone. Shit. Oh, so free speech. How did free speech get annihilated, you ask? Well, you are no longer allowed to speak negatively against Israel. Well, that's if it passes the Senate. And knowing who the senators are, it probably will. There was no pushback in the House of Representatives because they don't represent you. They represent Israel. Notice how many of your politicians, and it's public record, look up how many of your politicians have dual citizenships with Israel. It's an astounding amount. That should be illegal. You know, laws, the whole point of laws is to curtail the powers of the government. They were set up originally to assist you in keeping the government's control away from you. And now the government passes laws to keep you in control. You have been taken over by a foreign entity, and this will not go away by voting. The same people that don't like the current administration also say vehemently that the last election was not accurate. We'll put it that way. And those same people who think that the last election was not accurate now think 4 years later that they can vote their way out of this. That is insane. That is literal insanity. And you need to see that. So, back to Israel. Why is this a big deal, you ask? Well, you shouldn't ask, because you should know if you can't speak out against a certain group of people, then those are the people who control you. And if you are controlled, you are not free. And if you are not free, you are not sovereign. And if you are not sovereign, you are not a man. You are a commodity. And that's what most people in the United States are. Commodities. If this bill gets made into law, you will no longer be able to read the Bible verbatim, because you will no longer be able to say that JEWS turned Jesus over to the Romans to be executed, because that would be construed as hate speech. And I ask you, what exactly is hate speech? I got into this argument with my father last night. Not an argument, a healthy debate, which helps to spark ideas, and I do appreciate it still, but it's sad to see how broken he's gotten. What was I saying? Freedom of speech, freedom of speech. Some about freedom of speech. I don't know. It also curtails your right to freedom of religion. Freedom to practice your religion, and freedom from being forced to practice a certain religion. Because if you're not allowed to speak out against those people or speak out against their religion, I'd construe that as following it. And this is a really big problem, but it didn't begin with this proposed bill. Why do you think people get censored on YouTube? These people own you. They have owned you for a long time, and they will continue to own you until you get up off your ass and at the very least start walking softly with a big stick and speaking loudly. You need to speak out against it. There are no elections anymore. There are selections, and they are pacifiers. They're nothing but pacifiers to keep adult children in line. Jones Plantation. That's a movie everybody should watch, but probably won't. And the reason you should is because it is a perfect metaphor for the United States. A slave owner realizes, and I'm going to paraphrase, I watched it when I was really baked, so I'm going to get part of it wrong, but the gist of it is correct. A slave owner realizes that his slaves are starting to rebel. And somebody comes along and says, you know what? I have a solution for you. Let's free them. We'll free the slaves. We'll allow them to vote for their new slave masters. And it is the perfect pacifier. Just go watch the movie. I spoiled the shit out of it, but I did it poorly, so you'll still like the movie. That is exactly the dynamic under which we live. And it's nearly impossible to break people out of that illusion because they have become so emotionally invested in that illusion. It would actually shatter part of them to shatter that illusion. Just like, go and tell your footballer friend, American football, that sports are rigged. I dare you. Okay? It's a stupid subject. Sports don't matter at all. Not one iota. They're overpaid, undereducated runners. They hit each other for a living. And yet, if you go and tell your friend who enjoys watching sports that sports are rigged, they will become unhinged. And I think that's a testament to just how fragile people's egos have become. They realize that just below the surface, it's like Neo waking up. Just below the surface, there's something off. He's starting to see the deja vu, maybe blah, blah, blah. White rabbits all over the place. Starting to realize it. But they can't. They can't accept it. That's the thing. You can realize something without accepting it. And you can accept something. No, you can't. And that's much like the movie They Live. Remember how hard it was for the main character, the protagonist, to break his friend out of that spell he was under. He did not want to see the truth. You know, he was a good guy and intelligent, but he didn't want to see the truth. Nobody does. But you know what, guys? We are not going to succeed being part of the group that refuses to see the truth. We are not going to succeed. We are going to keep getting beat down by our peers because they have been programmed not only to deny what you say and in favor of what the government says, but also to mock, deride, belittle you for bringing up anything. We're not going to get through to them. I think the solution lies more in, I hate to say it, recession. Or no, secession. I'm sorry. We're in a recession. It lies in seceding because we're not going to get anywhere. And it can be peaceful. There's plenty of land out here. And now I'm just spitballing, but I don't see being able to wake up, 290 million people. I don't see that being feasible because they're so comfortable in their delusion. So I hope this has some positive effect on your day. I hope you have a wonderful day. And just know you're not alone, okay? For a long time, I've thought that I'm alone in my beliefs, in my knowledge. It's not beliefs, it's knowledge. And I'm not, and either are you. And so it's important to reach out to people who are like-minded. And if I can help, put a comment in my comment section. Email me, mattsnickscott@gmail.com. MATZNICKSCOTT@gmail.com. Email me. Let's get some talking going. We're not gonna accomplish anything by being separated. Okay? Have a wonderful day.